Today I'm going to be taking a look at the AndyRC Rekon 3. This is another collaboration between AndyRC and Dave CFPV. It is an ultralight, long-range 1S 3-inch quadcopter with an analog setup. The gimmick being that you can clip in an 18650 single-cell Lion directly into it and get a quoted 15-minute flight time. The majority of the frame is TPU 3D printed with some carbon fiber arms, and the motors are AndyRC's own 11,600 kV. The props are a dual blade and they are a push-on prop. Now, the battery just clips in, and it clips in really tightly. Of course, you have to get the polarity right, otherwise bad things will happen if you don't. I think it needs a battery strap because in a crash I can see that battery flying out. The camera is the Cadex Ant, and this is the TBS Crossfire version, but it does come in different receiver options. This is the 3018 dual blade propeller, which just pushes on. We've got some screws in the package, and this is a diagram showing you the polarity. If you put it in the other way around, then there is going to be smoke. It's a downside of this setup. We've got some cards in here as well. I have been informed that the diagram with the prop direction on it is incorrect. So this diagram shows it having a props in configuration, but it's actually a props out configuration. The flight controller is an all-in-one, so it is a 5 amp BL Halley S ESC and an F4 flight controller. It's come flashed with Betaflight, of course. We've got this manual here showing the setup. The VTX is a 350 milliwatt VTX, so not the most powerful. They say that you can get a few kilometers out of it, but you're going to have to make sure that you've got a good antenna setup for that. You can see all of the specs there of the all-in-one board. Let's take a look how much this guy weighs. I think they say 65 grams without a receiver, but I've got the Immortal T and the Crossfire Nano here, so that's 67.2 grams, very lightweight. And then with the VTC6 Lion, that's 110 grams, a very lightweight setup indeed. Alrighty, let's go for an FPV flight with this guy. We have got a nice on-screen display here. It's a sunny day, but unfortunately it's a very windy day. Straight away, I am seeing some interference from the electrical system. So not a lot that you can do about that. Just taking a look here at the throttle position, we're at about 45% and pulling about 13 amps. You can see there we've got the voltage there of the Lion, 3.5 volts. This is a downside of having a single cell. It does a roll, but it's a little bit wobbly, I have to say. I think the tune could be refined a little bit. It feels like the PIDs are slightly out. You can see that I've got the max power here at 350 milliwatts. We have got the fly min on there, currently at 1 minute in. Got the link quality up there on the screen. It's really struggling in the wind here. Well, link quality at 99%, but I feel like when I go around these trees, I am getting some breakup. I can't say I'm too impressed with the antenna on the VTX. It's sort of just loose, and if you have it pointing up, then it's going to get caught in the props. If you have it pointing down, then it's going to be difficult to take off. But it's a fairly clean feed for FPV. You guys are going to have to let me know in the comments whether you think this is more of a gimmicky thing or if it's something that you would actually buy. You know, it's flying nicely here. You're not going to be able to do crazy acro with it. It is purely just for long range. If you give it any amount of throttle, then it's not going to have a huge amount of power. It is literally for doing what I'm doing here, and that is, you know, just keeping the throttle in a similar position, you know, 42 to 45%, and then just flying it long range. Of course, we don't have GPS here, so we can't rely on that if we get a failsafe, or if, you know, for whatever reason the video cuts out. So you have to be mindful of that. And like I say, you're going to want to have a decent antenna setup. But, you know, this is flying nicely here, actually. It's a very windy day, around about 16 to 20 mile per hour. So, you know, I'm not going to get the best out of it in terms of flight time today, but hopefully it should show you what it's capable of. Now, one thing that I'm a little bit worried about is the fact that all of these components here are relying on a single cell. Now, with a Lion, you can take the voltage down way more than you can a LiPo, but a lot of these components here, they aren't used to running below 3.3 volts. And of course, this Lion here will go down to 2.5 if you want. So one thing I'm concerned about is whether the components on board can handle below 3 volts, basically. We've got Andy here, he's flying his glider. This is going to be a bit of a boring flight, and that's kind of why I say, you know, you can't put another battery on this. You are stuck with a Lion, so it's basically just a cruiser. So would you buy this, is what I'm asking of you guys. There'll be a link in the description of this guy. I think it's been up for pre-order for quite some time now, so I think, you know, people who are interested in this guy, they may have already ordered it. But from my perspective, you know, I'm having a good time here. I'm just cruising around again. I had to go up on the throttle a little bit as the voltage comes down, but it is a steady 3.4 volts here. We're now 4.5 minutes in. It does look like we are going to get a long flight time out of it. As for the tune, it's wobbling about here. I feel like the tune could be a little bit better. I've just left the tune that it came with out of the box. It definitely feels like, I think it feels like the p-value is a little bit too high. It's sort of shaking itself about a little bit. Getting a little bit of breakup as well. I'm using the rapid fire module and my Fat Shark goggles here. I've given it a little bit of camera angle because of the wind. I can hear Andy flying his powered glider around me, but I can't see him. I'm looking around to see if I can see him. I'm not really noticing any jello through the camera, which is a good thing because it's mounted in TPU. In fact, the whole frame is TPU. A little bit concerned about the arms on this quadcopter. They are really thin. I think, you know, we've got the weight of the battery on there, which is, you know, the main weight of the model. And I think if I had a crash with this guy, I'm not too sure about those arms. They are replaceable though. Actually, they're just on a single screw. So a 1.5 millimeter hex screw. So hopefully you'll be able to get replacement arms for this. I don't think it's going to be durable at all. So let's take a look here. We're at a 6-minute flight time at a 3.2 volts. You know, the video feed's looking pretty clear. I don't feel confident going outside of this field with it to do, you know, a proper range test, just because of the wind. Let's see, the throttle 42%. Yeah, it's holding its throttle. Well, I mean, I'd say I'd like to see a more powerful VTX, but man, if, you know, just maybe a couple of years ago, if you'd have said, oh, you can have a 1S quadcopter that flies for over 6 minutes, potentially 15 minutes, it's using one of these Lion batteries, I wouldn't believe you at all. So, you know, it is easy to criticize this thing, but when you look back, even just a year ago, you would say, nah, that's not a thing. But it is. So there you go. Okay. So as the voltage is dropping now, 3.2 volts, actually doing very well. I did expect more voltage sag than this. Now, HLRC have told me that the components here, they can deal with 2.6 to 2.8 volts, but I'm not so sure about that. We'll have to try it. I'm trying to outfly Andy's glider here. I think I might do it, although, you know, he can find a thermal and come off the power. You know, I've got the camera angle a little bit too high here for this direction. I'm just going to hover a little bit here, getting a little bit of a wobble now on this guy. So the prop, it's a gem fan prop, actually, with a 1.5mm shaft. I'm not seeing any problems here with the prop flying off or anything like that. The Cadex Ant, actually 1000 TV line, it's a CMOS camera. I say not getting any jello, which is a surprise with the dual blade prop. We're coming up to 8.5 minutes now. It's pretty incredible, really. I think they say that the wheelbase of this guy is 140 millimeters. You can't really put a bigger prop on this guy, just a 3-inch prop. Doesn't look like a 3-inch model because it looks like a stick insect, you know, because it is such a tiny thing. Yes, so a 3000 milliamp hour battery. We have got the current draw, but not the total current draw. That might have been helpful on here. The VTX is switchable. You know, it does 25 milliwatt, 100 milliwatt, 200 milliwatt. But really, you know, if you're using crossfire and long range, then you want to stick to 350 milliwatt. Now, this was sort of like a prototype sent to me, so I put my own rates in there, but the Betaflight setup was pretty good. I think if I recall, it had motor stop on, so I think I just turned that off, but the rest of it was a pretty good setup, which you would expect because, you know, they've collaborated here with DaveCFPV, so he will have put all of his setup on here. That is something that is great about any sort of collaboration. Oh, we are getting the timer flashing at 10 minutes. And we are, well, we're just hovering at 3 volts. So you know what? I think as a sort of safe flight, I would stick to 10 minutes and land it here, because these components, you know, they are not used to running below 3 volts, but it seems like it is doing it so far. I think I'm just going to fly it until it won't fly anymore, whether that is because we don't have enough power or the fact that, you know, it's getting a brownout. Now, HLRC did say sort of like, they warned me that, you know, when it sort of gets below 3 volts, then make sure that, you know, your throttle is pretty low, you know, to make sure that nothing browns out. But I'm not sure that's possible here. I'm now at 54, you know, 60% throttle. Everything is flashing here, and it's not like I could dip the throttle to recover from a brownout, because I am giving it as much throttle as possible to stay in the air, but any less and it would kind of fall out of the sky. So that's, you know, 11, 12 minutes. It is still going. I'm sorry, it's a bit of a boring flight, but, you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? You know, you either have a crazy powerful quadcopter that flies for 4 minutes and it's like, you know, flying a roller coaster, or, you know, we have these cruisers, but you can't really do acro with them. Oh, it's starting to feel a little bit heavy now. So yeah, around about 60% throttle on 2.9 volts. This is where I'm feeling a little bit scared, honestly. They say 15 minutes. Oh, I don't think this is going to do 15 minutes. The lockout on these things, 2.5 volts per cell. 2.8, oh man, 12 minutes. Yeah, there's a little bit of a wind, but if I was paying money for this thing, I don't think I'd want to push it. Oh, Oh, look at that. Oh, no. Oh, the VTX locked up. Come down on the throttle. Oh, right. Okay. Well, there you go. It's died. Let's go and check out what the damage is. Well, unfortunately, it is not great news. The arm has snapped and the battery actually flung out. So I do think a battery strap would be useful for this guy. Something that is a little bit daunting when putting one of these 8 and 650 batteries in there is that once it's in there, you know, the quadcopter is live, the VTX is live, and it's not easy to get out by hand. But when you have a crash, then it seems to fly out. Now, you can get replacement arms, so that's a good thing, but this thing is definitely not durable in a crash. And there you go, that is my review of the HLRC Rekon 3. I'll put a link in the video description as well as a pinned comment if you wish to get one. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.